Name of Jesus, my dear friends, right after I finished my year of vicarage training, we moved back to Fort Wayne to finish my last year at the seminary. And we were fortunate enough to hear about, and we rented an upstairs apartment in the carriage house on the estate of a millionaire on the southwest side of Fort Wayne. There was just one catch, though the rent was really sweet. Whenever the millionaire and his wife would go on a week-long trip, we had to move into the big house. Yeah, I know, it was a sacrifice, but we made it. And we moved into the servant quarters. That tells you how big the house was. And our job for a week was to babysit their two kids that were 10 and 8 or something like that. And the first time, we had to do it twice that year, and the first time was around the middle of December. And when I say this house was big, I'm not kidding. In the family room, the fireplace in the family room was a walk-in fireplace, and I'm not kidding. It was big enough to roast a whole cow on a spit. It's huge. Now, they never did that, but that's how big this, I mean, the fireplace was bigger than some offices people have to work in that I've seen. And in this smartly decorated family room, most of us would call it a great big room, were about 200 gifts for these two children. And I said, wow, you must have a lot of relatives or something. He said, no, these aren't from family or friends. Those presents don't come under the tree, show up on the tree until we get up on Christmas morning. Well, where do these gifts come from that are for all of you? He says, well, it happens every year. People that my dad who work for my dad or who want to do business with my dad give us gifts. I know what you think about that. I'm certainly happy for these kids. They had more than they want. Their dad, even though he was a millionaire, was very simple. He drove a Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, it wasn't like they lived extravagantly above their means by any stretch. But when you think about people who are trying to curry favor with one who they report to or who they want to do business with by giving gifts to your kids, it shocked me. Didn't surprise me, but it shocked me. I was disappointed by those that felt that the only way they could get in good with their dad was buy them a gift at Christmas. At my older sister's wedding reception, my alcoholic uncle criticized our pastor for having the one mixed drink. I think it was a White Russian, if I recall, right? It was the only one he had all night during the whole entire reception. And later, after my pastor had walked away from us, I had asked a question of my uncle, who I love dearly, and I said, Uncle, I don't understand. Help me understand. Why is it wrong for my pastor to have one drink when you already had several tonight? If it's wrong for him, it's wrong for you. He says, oh, you don't understand. Your pastor's a pastor. He's a man of God. He shouldn't be drinking. That's wrong. I, on the other hand, am just a reprobate. So it doesn't matter how much I drink. What do you think about that? Using a problem or addiction that I have or my circumstances in life to become an excuse to do what I know and believe is wrong. How right is that? I bought a book years ago, and I bought it simply because of its title. The title was this: Yes, Lord, I've sinned, but I have several excellent excuses. Have you ever noticed these sorts of things going on where people use their circumstances or station in life in order to justify their wrong behavior, blaming it on who they are or who they think or they imagine themselves to be? Oh, it's okay if I do this. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I'm no good. Or I can do this because, as one fellow that Carolyn worked for years ago, he was the owner of a wholesale business. And he probably announced many times each week to his employees, I have the gold, so I make the rules. And what if you were Solomon? The Bible tells us how wise he is. In 1 Kings 4, it says, men of all nations came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. Think of the people that came before him. If you've ever taken a psychology class, you've probably heard of this phrase. It's called triangulation. Let me just explain to you very simply. When I can't make you do what I want you to do or give me what I want you to give me, I find somebody with a bigger stick than I have to agree with me to go club you to get you to do what I asked you to do in the first place. It's what kids do when they go squeal to mom or dad. That's what it is. I get someone with more authority and more power to do that. And so you imagine someone who is as wise as Solomon, who is king of all of Israel, the people that would come before him to try to get him to decide and make the other person do what they wanted them to do. The most famous case in the Bible that is known, perhaps, is the one where two young women who had just had babies came before Solomon. One baby had died. One had lived. And both mothers claimed the living baby as their own. And they wanted Solomon to decide who got the baby. And so Solomon, hearing their case, asked for the baby and one of the guard's swords. He said, since you both claim the living baby, I'm going to cut this baby in half and give you each a half. And it's at that point the Bible records the baby's mother screamed, please don't kill my son, your majesty. I love him very much, but give him to her. Just don't kill him. The other woman shouted, go ahead and cut him in half. Then neither of us will have the baby. Solomon said, don't kill the baby. Then he pointed to the first woman. She's the real mother. Give the baby to her. There's nothing greater than a mother's grief. But in our grief, does that allow us the freedom to justify stealing somebody else's baby and claiming it as our own? What would lead someone to be able to justify themselves and their behavior because of who they are, what their circumstances were? As we sit here and talk about it in some fashion academically, say, well, how could anybody do such a thing? Don't people know what right and wrong is? But we do it all the time, don't we? If you stop and think in your own life, and I'm not asking anybody to stand up again. I just remember being a kid one time, talking to my mom, trying to get her to agree with me so I could do what I wanted to go do. I'm sure none of you, when you were teenagers, ever did this. I said, but Mom, everybody's doing it. And you know what my mom said? I don't care if everyone is doing it, you're not. We try it all the time, don't we? It's our struggle. And so it really makes us ask, I think, an important question of ourselves, and that is, what am I living my life for? What is it that's going on in my life that becomes so critical, so crucial, so primary, that if it's threatened or I'm losing it, I will use it as my excuse or my leverage, depending on my station in life, to get what I want anyway? Well, I'm not sure that I've got the perfect answer for you, how to figure out what that might be for you, but I've got 3 questions for us to consider this morning that should point us in the right direction. The first one's this: who or what do I spend my life on? Past the basic needs of life, what am I pursuing in my life? What do I want more than anything else in life? And if you're not sure what the answer to that is, then get out your calendar and get out your checkbook and ask yourself, where am I spending my time? What am I spending my money on? Past necessities of life, that'll tell you what your priorities of life are, what you're investing your life in. And it makes you ask the question, then, is that really what I want to be investing my life in over time? And now again, notice I'm not talking about whether something's good or bad or right or wrong or sinful or righteous. Just what are the things that I spend my life on? Here's the second question: what comes first in my life? Who or what do I always make time for no matter what? And what am I willing to sacrifice everything else for to fit it in? What comes ahead of everything else? What have I committed to have in my life no matter what else is happening?